The planned Nigeria Labour Congress protest is ongoing in Lagos and Abuja. NLC President Joe Ajero says Nigerians are hungry and must air their views concerning the economic situation and hardship in the country. Joining us now on the morning show is Peter Esele, former president of the Trade Union Congress and Pengassan. Esele will be discussing the Nigeria Labour Congress protest that is ongoing today. Good morning. Good morning, Peter Esele. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Thank you for having me.
Well, very quickly, you were president of the Trade Union Congress. And now we have this situation in this current industrial action, this protest, with TUC accusing the NLC of taking unilateral action. Whereas both the NLC and the TUC were together at the point where they announced a 14-day ultimatum before NLC then announced this 2-day warning strike. What could have happened? What information do you have in terms of the details beyond Festus Usifo telling us, so NLC is embarking on unilateral action and therefore they will not be part of it? Some developing rift, but it's more than what we see or have heard.
Yes. This is not an unusual occurrence. It's something that has happened several times in the past. But the challenges that we are facing here is that the TUC, I'm aware, the TUC have reached out to the NSC that they've had about 2 or 3 occasions whereby they feel the NSC was being more of a one-man show, and they were taking actions that are unilateral. And then they have to now communicate this to the Nigeria Labour Congress. But my surprise was having that letter being leaked to the public. We had similar things during Abubakar, when Omar was also president of NLC and I was president of TUC. But issues like these are not issues that are meant for the public. Issues like these are things that are trashed out behind closed doors. These are normal things. TUC has its own organs, NLC have their own organ. But both organs are supposed to come together and make a decision. But I think it's unfortunate what have happened, and it's also unfortunate that these have been made public. Yes, such schism happens, but it's always dealt with in a manner that does not make labor look silly. So what we have at the moment is that it shows a huge division among the leadership of NLC and TUC.
Well, yes, you've mentioned the fact that it shows it weakens your strength when you're not united or when you're not seem to be united in terms of your activism. But I'd like to share, you share with us, because you said that you had similar challenges when you were president of the TUC, with the president of the NLC. What are some of these fundamental challenges? Because the focus ought to be a representation and amplifying the voices of the workers, Nigerian workers that you represent. So what are these issues? Because if it isn't dealt with, then it would distract significantly from the work at hand.
I think the president of TUC and the president of Nigerian Labour Congress should take full responsibility for such breakdown. No matter what happens, both of them should get themselves in a room and sort it out. When I said I had similar issues with Omar, then Omar and I would sit down, we'll look at it and look at how we can improve on communication. What we have now is a breakdown of communication. And then one of the things that we also do is that you must keep your eyes on the ball. What is the ball? The ball is whatever is going to happen will be in the best interest of the Nigerian workers. Their division is not in the best interest of Nigerian workers at the moment. The division is also not in the best interest of Nigerians. So what we have here now is more of an ego trip. There are certain issues that I'm also aware of, but I think will not be conducive for me to declare on live TV. But the issue right now is that both president of NLC and TUC should sit down, and they are responsible for this weakening.
Good to see you again, Mr. Esele, but I must confess that you have been a standard when it comes to being TUC president. I'm not saying because you're on live TV today, and you set the bar, and that's why many years after, about 10 years after, you're still a reference point in labor matters. And I wish strongly that the current leadership of the TUC can learn from you and follow your footsteps. And I say that with all intents and purposes, because this is not the first time TUC will be a cog in the wheel of labor. We had Mr. Osifo here, and I would have loved Mr. Osifo to take a challenge and come on Arise TV. Let's ask him some due questions this morning. We had Mr. Osifo here, just the last time too, labor was about calling off the strike. Mr. Osifo said, oh, let us stall things a bit. Let's see the government will react. The government has not reacted. That's why labor is calling for another strike. And it's still that same template Mr. Osifo is playing. So somebody is forced to ask, what's the TUC's, grouse with labor and all of this? What is going on? The TUC doesn't respect the injury. Because the TUC keeps insisting, oh, we give government a chance, we give government a chance. But nothing happens in the end. I'm challenging Mr. Osifo to come here. With due respect, please, you can answer. What's the grouse in TUC? Mr. Esele, please.
Well, I would say, yes, I would say there are difference of opinion. One of the ways it also has to do with your training capacity that you've also developed over the years. For me, when we have issues like this, is that I try as much as possible to look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is what is in the best interest of the Nigerian worker, what's in the best interest of Nigeria. But you may also, Mr. Osifo's grouse or what is playing now, the TUC, let us not personalize it. It has to do with the organs of the TUC. The feeling of the organs of the TUC is that if we agree that we've given an ultimatum, we want to pick a date. So Nigerian Labour Congress President and General Secretary, while the TUC President and General Secretary, and the organs of both unions will send representatives and they will agree on a particular date for them to go ahead on a protest or a strike. What the TUC is saying here is that they were not informed or they were not carried along, let me use that phrase, they were not carried along in picking of these dates. That's on one hand. On the other hand, again, is that in issues like this, government benefits in the sense that you are weakened, and once you are weakened, you don't have a solid front to confront the government. Because both TUC and NLC have what I call they both shared what I call the G7 union or G8 unions. By these 8 unions, I mean, if you want to call a strike in this country, and you want the strike to be very, very effective, these 8 unions must sign in. So if I think about 3 of them are in the TUC, I think another 4 is in Nigerian Labour Congress, while others will come together with those 8 unions. But what we have right now is that if you have such division, your strike is not going to be effective. I watched when Dr. Abati was talking about the effectiveness of the strike will be measured at the end of the day. But so far from report that I'm getting is that you are having the TUC arm not going along with this protest.
But what would be your assessment of the demands by organized labor? What the NLC is complaining about, and previously the TUC also, has been the failure of the Tinubu administration to honor the 16-point agreement reached on October 2, 2023. What do you think is the way forward, particularly now that government says labor should be patient, Nigerians should be patient? These are hard times, and if labor is patient enough, these problems will be resolved in due course. What's your opinion on that?
My opinion in all of this is that in the first place, it doesn't have to do with labor. I believe that government would have taken labor completely out of the equation if government really were serious. First thing, I always say Nigerians' problem starts from the political parties. The political parties, you don't even know what they stand for. So you don't even know their ideology, and you don't even know what policy or economic policy are they coming up with. Now, the first thing was you are taking away subsidy. Labour have been against subsidy removal. Now, suddenly, Labour also now agreed, or let me use the word, giving a tacit approval, and then you went ahead, you take away subsidy, but you did not mitigate the fallout from subsidy removal. So when you did not mitigate the fallout from subsidy removal, what we have is that prices skyrocketed. And then on top of that, you float your currency. So once you have both on the citizenry, you are going to face a lot of challenges. Now, what would I think government would have done? Not just this particular Tinubu administration, from Obasanjo, from President Jonathan's administration, President Buhari's administration, the foundation would have been transportation. Transportation is the key. For any economic growth, you must be able to move goods and services. So what I expect the federal and state government is that you would have gone ahead to work on and have an effective transport system. Have meetings with National Union of Road Transport Workers. Be able to build data. How many passengers are you moving daily? This is how much we want you to pay. And this is how much government is going to come to, government will subsidize with it. Whether it is Jonathan administration or this current administration, the federal government always suffer at the end of the day. I've told NLC and TUC at the state council level, nobody is holding our governors accountable. It's not the direct responsibility of the federal government to provide public transportation. No, it's the direct responsibility of the state governors and the local government to provide public transportation. And state governors and local government have been getting 2 times allocation since the advent of this administration. But they are not accountable. Neither TUC or NLC in the states are asking any of these questions. And the TUC and NLC must also look at the way the state councils are run. In the sense that most of the state council chairmen and secretaries are bodies of governors. Your cars are bought by the governors. So at the end of the day, you can't have a state council chairman or secretary standing up to the governor. So you will now find out that the president of NLC and the president of TUC will now be doing things that the state council's chairman are supposed to do. Labor movement is bottom up and not top down. So the minute labor movement start becoming top down, it's not like political parties and politics. So transportation is key here. 1 year down the road, the government promised CNG. Have they done anything about it? No. All you need to do is to talk of private investors, create the environment, give grants. I'll give you an example of Tesla. We're talking about Tesla today. The American government gave Tesla $4.9 billion grant to make it easier for Americans to purchase it. Government does not need to get directly involved. It's create an environment for private sector investment to come in and then take over that and make it available. Businesses will always thrive in any way they know they can make profit. But what government is doing is that they keep scoring own goals, which is very sad.
All right. Very quickly, I'd like to ask you, how effective do you think this 2-day protest will be in light of what we've seen in recent times, negotiations not happening? I mean, there was meant to be a negotiation or a conversation last night with the federal government, and that didn't happen. Nassau Villa. So how do you think this administration or the government will listen or will pay attention to this protest, especially bearing in mind the divisions that exist between some organizations pulling out, CSOs pulling out, TUC not involved, NLC going with a few other bodies? Do you think it will be effective?
Now, the common slang in the labor movement is a luta continua. You just keep going. You keep protesting. It's their right to protest. And then you also need to bring the intellectual aspect of it. I always say protest is minimal. The main thing is for you to put whatever is in your head, you put it on paper. So that's the key, but they have to continue. And it's also not in the interest of this government to weaken organized labor. If you weaken organized labor, you are actually creating problems for yourself down the road. I had that conversation with the former President Jonathan, and I said, if you weaken, would you prefer an organized labor that has an address where you can go to them and have a meeting, or anarchy in the system, whereby you are dealing with people that you don't even have an address, you don't have their offices? And the president saw reasons with that. So for this administration, if their plan is to weaken organized labor, I would say down the road, there's a huge price to pay. This government so far have not been able to earn the respect of organized labor, and this government have not done things that I would have expected them to do. There are no promises that they have made to organized labor so far that they have been able to achieve.
Okay. The question is, you're saying it's not good for government to weaken organized labor. Isn't this internal fight? And that's why probably in this challenge we'll want the NLC and the TUC people to, come talk to us about this. If possible, both men face themselves head to head. I'm talking about Joe Ajaero and Mr. Alex Osifo. Are these as unions not weakening themselves with all of these internal squabbles that they are having as we speak today? I mean, where's the level of leadership, akin to the days of the likes of Pa Michael Imodu, that could even hold the colonialists in this country with the railway unions? So where's that level of leadership? Where is it? And that's why a lot of people are complaining that there's not that intellectual fortitude in the labor union any longer. I'm happy you talked about intellectualism. It's lacking even in the arguments. And now we see infighting. What would you like to say about this?
I think this infighting will be sorted out shortly. Both of them will also need to now look at themselves in the mirror, and I think it will be taken care of. I will always say that these issues are normal in the NLC and TUC. When you have a family, there are disagreements. The only aspect that I'm not happy about is that these disagreements spill over into the public domain. We always have this disagreement. We have debates. We have what a lot of people don't know. Even in the organs, you have people who belong to different political parties. In my time, we all know which party you belong to, and everybody just said that which party are you carrying the card for? And at the end of the day, we come together and we know what is our goal. The goal is what is in the best interest of the Nigerian worker and Nigerians. So this issue of disagreement or ego trip between the leadership, I think that will be taken care of in the shortest possible time. And then for the government, why I say government shouldn't weaken labor, I'm not saying about the internal squabble, is that when each time you go to government, you are negotiating, and you come out of that negotiation empty-handed, what you are doing is that you are weakening the movement. And the movement is losing credibility on the streets. And over a period of time, when the movement now calls for action, people now say, oh, pidgin English cliche, oh, now so they did one before. And that is not good for the government. So government must be able to say, okay, we have a 16-point agreement. Okay, we've sorted that 4-5. So please be patient with us. And then people can also say, okay, fine, let's be patient. But we cannot have 16, and not even a single one. We were told refineries will come up in December. Refineries are not out. We were told no more subsidy. And I can tell you authoritatively right now, subsidy is back. And subsidy is even higher. Because you cannot sell petrol at 630 when it was 700 naira to the 700 naira to the dollar. And now it's about 1415. And you are still selling at 650. So those are the challenges ahead.
On that note, former president of the Trade Union Congress, former president of Pengasan, Mr. Peter Esele, would like to thank you very much for joining us on The Morning Show.